Welcome to the Brand Lincoln Podcast, the show where we dig into the stories behind Lincoln's most inspiring business owners and influential people. It's where big ideas and even bigger personalities collide. Proudly sponsored by Perch Merch, your one-stop shop for screen printing, embroidery, and promotional products that make your brand unforgettable. Call us at 402-217-5212 or visit us at perch-merch.com to give your business the glow-up it deserves. And don't just listen, be a true multitasker. Like, follow, and subscribe on whatever platform you're tuning in on. And check us out on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Brand Lincoln Podcast. We're basically everywhere you waste your time. Let's get inspired, Lincoln. The stories start now. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Brand Lincoln. I'm your host, Chris Beecham, joined by my co-host, Henry Schmidt.
Hi, Chris.
And Joe Cruz.
Hello, everyone.
So today in the Perch Merch studio, we have Dawn Amond of Runza.
Yep.
Did I say that right?
Yeah, restaurants.
Yeah.
Boy.
This is exciting.
Yes.
So, okay, let's just start from the beginning. What's Runza?
Runza is a sandwich. And it's ground beef, cabbage, onions, and spices, all baked inside homemade bread. And that's how we tell our team members to explain it. But It's exactly what it is. And Runza Restaurants, obviously, is the restaurant named after the Runza sandwich.
So what year are we talking that this started?
So 1949, my grandmother with her brother opened up a little restaurant shack here in Lincoln on the way to Pioneers Park. And
tell me exactly where it was, because I always hear about it.
Yeah, well, now it would be where like Speedway Motors owned all the what's the gymnastics place? Like Solid Rock, and then you have all those banquet halls on the
so like
on the north side of Van Dorn.
Yeah,
headed to the bypass or headed to Pioneers Park.
Okay.
So kind of in that area would have been where it was. But then they built the road kind of up above and over and around. And it was still there in the 90s. But then, like I said, they built the road and whatever. And so it no longer was there. So
what made them decide to do this?
So it was a post-war project. You know, I wish I would have asked my grandmother that because she had kids at home and, you know, she was ahead of her time. First of all, she was a female and she wanted to start this little restaurant shack. It had corn dogs, it had shakes, it had hamburgers, and then the Runza sandwich is a sandwich her mother used to make. And
I assume she didn't create the Runza, that it's...
No, well, it was a sandwich her mother used to make. So a lot of Germans migrated to Russia way back when.
Sure.
And then they came from Russia, you know, to the United States. And my family landed in Sutton, Nebraska. And so my grandmother and her siblings grew up in Sutton, Nebraska, and with her mother making these sandwiches. And so my understanding is the name Runza is completely made up. She completely made up.
Really?
Yes,
so
the word she did, and she actually federally trademarked it.
Smart.
Which is in the early 50s for a female to, you know, kind of have that forward thinking is quite impressive.
Was that sandwich just flying off the shelves? Is that why she chose to name the restaurant after it?
That was from the beginning.
So it was originally...
It just was from the very beginning. From the very beginning, I'm going to call this a Runza. I'm going to federally trademark it. I'm going to have a restaurant.
Wow.
You know, but it was quick serve, right?
Yeah,
I mean, it was car hops coming to your car, or you just walked up. Yeah. So my understanding, it was about no more than $500 investment at that time to build this little shack. And my understanding is also that it flooded at one point.
Yeah.
But yeah. And she was very meticulous. I remember going with her to the restaurant. I remember the creaking of the back door, the screen, and walking in, and they were making their Runza sandwiches, and her being very meticulous and going over to them and saying, no, you got to do that. And yeah, I remember the soda fountain and the ice cream, that kind of thing. So that is how Runza started.
So where was the first brick and mortar place after the shack or
Okay,
shed?
so
or...
yeah, so my dad did a stint in Miami at the Miami Herald. He and his brother moved to Florida, loved the Florida life, but then decided, we need to grow up. And he moved back home and worked for his mom a little bit and whatever, and then got married, had a baby. And he went to his mother and said, and by the way, this is Donald Everett Sr., that's my dad. I'd like to open up my own Runza restaurant. And I guess she just kind of giggled at him and said, well, what for? And he's like, well, I'll give it a go. I'll give a go of it. So yeah, she said, sure, whatever you want to do. So his very first Runza restaurant was on 56 and Holdridge here in Lincoln. Yeah. And I believe it was 1966.
So was the first one like going crazy already at that point in time? Like, was it?
I don't know. I mean, I think it started to become a staple. On our way out to Pioneers Park, let's stop at Runza,
Yep.
And so, yeah. And the newspaper referred to him as the architect of Runza's growth, which is absolutely true. So he wasn't the actual founder, but he definitely took it from 2 locations to, before he died in 2014.
How many locations are we at now?
We're at 91 locations.
And
Yeah, we have a
many
couple on the
cities?
drawing board. We're in Nebraska, still primarily Nebraska, but we have Kansas, Colorado, Iowa, and South Dakota as well.
How did those do?
How did
How do you introduce, Runza to a new
Well,
state?
that is extremely difficult, as we've learned.
Because, the description of the sandwich, if you told me just the description of what's in the sandwich, I might go, yeah, no.
Right, yeah.
Can you imagine being in the
Right.
drive-through
Runza,
the first month working at those places? They're like, how many times do you answer or get asked?
What is a Runza?
What's number one?
Like, just eat it and then we'll tell you.
Yeah, I mean, or, then they think it's funny. I'll get the runs from Runza. Yeah.
I haven't heard that one.
Yeah.
Maybe we just respect it here.
Actually, that really stunts our growth a little bit because, the name Runza, it doesn't really say what it is, right? We're hamburger.
Double cheeseburger.
Or whatever. Yeah, you know what that is, right? And so it really does. It makes it a little difficult to expand outside of Nebraska. So for us, we feel, it needs to be slow and controlled. And we've always had that. My dad has always been slow and controlled, although he's done some crazy things too. But over the years, we've learned you just can't jump and open one in California. It's got to be kind of a spreading out from Nebraska. And some of these brand new markets we learned early on, even though the name is Runza Restaurant, we got to lead with something else like hamburgers or, the homemade fresh and, that kind of thing. So, yeah.
Which the hamburgers and fries are spectacular as well.
Yeah.
But Runza,
thank you.
Cheese Runza. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right. The hamburgers are the best in town. That spicy
Well,
Jack
thank
burger
you.
is
I appreciate
something
that.
else.
Yeah, thank you.
So when did you start getting involved? Like,
So,
is this like
so my brother and sister and I, together, the 3 of us run the company. We're the franchise. And just over half the chain is owned by our locations, corporate locations, and then the rest is franchised. So we all grew up working in the restaurants. As early as 4 years old, my sister was making drinks on the counter at 56 and Holdridge, or my dad would, if he had to babysit us, he'd just take us to the restaurant and sit us up on bags of flour and here, eat some French fries, So we would watch. We'd sit in the back. We'd watch at a very young age. But we really started working when we were about 11 or 12. And our job was to go in on the weekend and make the onion rings. And so we did that at first. And we'd take our friends. We'd have sleepovers, and the friends would go with, and they would make onion rings and, whatever. And then from there, we would learn everything. And, so really in high school, we were operationally sound and probably could manage one of the restaurants. But of course, we were in high school, had other things going on. But we always worked consistently 20 to 40 hours each. We loved it. We absolutely loved it. And my dad was a great mentor in that way and set the example, give 110%, take initiative, that kind of thing. So.
Got it.
So I kind of want to go behind the scenes because I had a friend in high school that I'm pretty sure his job was a Runza stuffer. On that,
So like you
that-
take the meat and you throw it in there?
like they just for a day or whatever they would make like thousands of Runza.
Well, that sounds like prep for
Like,
a game day.
That's right.
Is that what it
would
was?
be? That's what that would be. So yeah. So a Runza is a dough enrobed product, right? Somehow you got to get the filling inside of the fresh, homemade dough, and so he was probably making Runzas, is what he was doing. Yeah, and then yes, our Lincoln stores during football season, God bless them, are extremely busy preparing for
Yeah.
game day. Yeah.
So they all help.
Every single store is given a certain amount that they have to make. They make them on Fridays, and they get down to the stadium by Friday night, and then we bake them on site, so they're hot and fresh, and about 15,000 a game.
You will not taste a better Runza than inside Memorial Stadium. When,
Yeah.
It's like 45 degrees and it's chilly, but
Yeah,
you get that hot
you get that
pocket.
hot
Yeah.
Runza.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, we're blessed. A Runza sandwich really holds its heat well. It's not like some other food items in the stadium where you're eating it kind of cold. But yeah, we're really lucky that we have that freshness and we're able to bake on site. And yeah,
Your
so-
grandma was probably thinking about that.
Yeah.
You think
You need-
so?
What
Yeah.
about what a
You
dream?
need
though.
Someday you're
yeah.
going to
Someday I'm
be
gonna
in
be
the
selling these
stadium.
things in there.
So I got to tell you, that's the interesting thing is my dad was really was an innovator. He was a real risk taker, and that's why he was successful. And he was meticulous. He wasn't smart in school. He wasn't the smartest kid. He wasn't the, number one in his graduating class. Instead,
C's get degrees.
yeah.
I'm living proof.
There you go. There you go. And so he was the kid that was probably had a ADHD, just kind of staring out the window, thinking creatively, and he tried things. I mean, he's the one that would spend a little to get a little, and so his first idea was, I'm going to buy an old mail truck, and I'm going to go down the stadium and I'm going to sell these out of this mail truck. So that's what he did. He bought this old mail truck and went down the stadium, and it grew from there.
So at some point they invite you in, or is that
Well-
like a
Like, hey, man,
pitch,
Yeah,
you know?
so I
you
don't
can't
know.
be selling out here.
Like,
All right, can I
listen,
sell in there then?
Yeah, let me in. Let me in. Now, well, I don't know if you guys remember, but there was an old gas station on the west side of the stadium, and for ever and ever, it
Where?
was right where Champions is.
Yeah.
There was a gas station that close to the stadium?
Yes.
Yeah.
And
There was a
it was-
Perkins right by that.
Nope.
No, I know what a Perkins is.
Yeah. So right where Champions was a gas station. And it was the only privately owned property, not owned by the university, for a really long time. And my dad had the creativity to go to that guy and say, can I park my truck here and sell these? Probably for free or minimal rent, whatever. And yeah, that is where my dad started, and that's at football games. And everyone knew that's where the Runza van was. So the mail truck eventually, as I was growing up, became one of those, I don't know, what are they?
Food truck
20-foot RVs that was converted with
Got it.
ovens in it. And we would just sell out the windows, and we would sell a ton. And throughout the whole game, and I remember being in charge of driving that thing at 16 down to the stadium. But that also doubled as the Everett family vacation vehicle.
Of course it did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you leave the ovens?
in it.
Did you leave the ovens
We
in?
did.
How are
Yes.
they going to cook their meal?
Yes.
Yeah.
We would be
That's
going down
awesome.
the interstate to Florida twice a year with that oven and those racks rattling. And it had carpet all the way up the walls.
As it should.
That's-
As it should.
It had the Runza logo on it. And we would go to Florida twice a year, and that served as our family. My dad was an innovator, but he was also so efficient and so frugal. I mean, airplane? No.
Why would we do that?
Or you can just sleep in the RV. I'm surprised.
Yeah, we did. Many times we pull into a Waffle House parking lot and just sleep and catch a couple hours so you could keep driving.
Got it. Well, speaking of innovation, like when I was growing up, I remember a thing called rock and roll Runza.
Oh
Yes.
my gosh, yes.
And I was weird because I just saw like a TikTok the other day of somebody reaching out to Runza saying, "We need you to bring back rock and roll Runza."
Yeah.
Henry, you probably have
I don't know
no
what
idea.
this is. Nope.
They had a drive-through Halloween haunted house.
It was
Yes.
downtown, yeah, on like
That's
Q
right.
Street or Q or one of those
Right.
ones.
Yeah.
And it was like an old style diner. With
13th and P.
they were on roller
Elvis
skates,
Presley,
you know,
James Dean.
and it was a Runza, but it was rock and roll
Yeah.
Runza.
So you're driving through and you get some entertainment while you're driving
No,
through.
you can
No,
sit
no,
there.
the drive-through was just for Halloween. But yeah, you
Okay.
No, it wasn't just for Halloween. That was
closed
the
the
actual drive-through.
Oh, that was a drive-through.
That was
Oh.
actually a drive-through
I
to
don't
get your
remember
food.
that.
So was that one of your father's inventions?
Yes. Okay. So my dad had that dream for, always. And my dad, I talk about driving down the road to Florida twice a year. The music was blaring all the time, and it was always Elvis and 50s.
Heck
Yeah. And we really grew up on that music. But it was always his dream to do rock and roll Runza. So he purchased that building at 13th and P. The upper level was for banquets and really nice facility. And then the main level was rock and roll Runza. But it also had the dining room, and it also had a walk-up area. But this building was an old car car lot, but it was a building where it was a car dealership. That's the word I'm looking for. So they had that drive. It was a lift to get cars up to the higher floors. So that was already there. You just had to knock out, each end of the building to get through there. And so, So that was his dream, and so that was there for quite a while, and it was fun. You're right. Everybody was on roller skates.
It was really cool.
We had a DJ that was doing 50s music. We'd host birthday parties. It also had a bar. So if you wanted to go to a bar,
There was a Runza bar. There was a Runza bar.
I was too young
in
for that
rock
part.
and roll
but
Runza.
Yeah.
Yeah, in rock and roll.
What is
Runza.
in that space now? Where is this?
Somebody took over the banquet part of it upstairs, and
it's now
still.
office buildings, I believe.
Yeah, and then Noodles and Company was there. It's right
now-
next to the Children's Museum.
Okay.
It's to the west of Children's Museum, right on the corner.
Pretty close to
And
the campus then.
Yeah, yeah. And then my dad opened in part of it a restaurant called, I think, Stillwater Grill or Stillwater. I mean, he just kept going, But downtown, owning a restaurant and business downtown can be really tough. So, yeah.
What are some other things that we don't know about that he, wanted to do or
Well,
Right.
did that,
I want to ask if he created Runza Rex now.
Yeah, so Runza Rex and Friends, Bronte, Cornelius.
Oh.
No, that was a marketing creation years ago when we introduced kids' meals.
Yes.
Yeah, so yeah, we didn't always have kids' meals. I remember introducing those. I remember introducing chicken sandwiches. Those weren't on the menu. Now those are staples, at every quick serve,
yeah,
right?
sure.
Same with kids' meals. But let's see. What else did my do? Okay, so he attempted to buy Exarban.
Oh,
Wow.
Yeah, that was another dream of his. And we spent a lot of time, a lot of resources trying to buy Exarban. And so my dad was a big horse owner. Horse races was a big part of our lives. That's one of the reasons we would head to Florida a couple times a year. Hialeah, Miami, Hollywood, Florida, Ocala, Florida, for horses. And it was a real expensive hobby of his. Plus, we have a farm on the way to Crete, Nebraska, where he would breed and had a lot of lot of heads of horses there. But horse racing really was his passion. And he saw that it was kind of starting to die in Nebraska. And he was just sick about the jobs that were going to be lost. And plus, it's just his passion. And he wanted to buy Exarban and got really, really close, but was just hit with so much red tape. They wouldn't let him buy it. And so that was that one made us nervous. That one, my mom's like, we're going under. That was one idea that, but he was passionate about it. He was passionate about horse racing and the jobs that horse racing provided. And so, yeah. And growing up when horse racing was real popular and thriving really was actually cool. So, yeah, so that was
There
fun.
used to be a track where the state fairgrounds were, right?
Yep.
Yes, that's right. Yep.
I've-
Yep. So he had a lot of horses race in Nebraska, but they would also go and race in bigger races. He had one stakes winner. It was a Pan American. It's called the Pan American, and the horse's name was was it Runza Ton or Tons of Run? I think it was Runza Ton spelled backwards as Tons of Run.
Oh.
Or whatever. I can't remember which one. But anyway, that horse won the Pan American, and that was a nice purse. And then he was able to use them for stud fees. And so, yeah.
So who came up with the Temperature Tuesday?
Okay, so yes, that's probably my dad. I mean, and, our advertising firm or
Do the
whatever.
workers hate that day?
Okay, well, let me tell you. So it used to be called... not Temperature Tuesday, but what did it used to be called? Temperature, I can't remember. But, okay, we started doing it for, it was a monthly thing, a month. And
Like all of January?
And you didn't have to buy something to get the Runza for that temperature. So our staff
I'm
was
listening. I like that.
working,
You should try it again.
exhausted. 24 hours we were making Runza sandwich filling and pinching Runzas, and it was crazy. Never thought it would be, well, we soon learned, we're really not making any money on that. Although, what a great PR thing. And that's what, he's the innovator. And so then we finally realized, okay, this has to be, we got to do this for like 2 weekends. So for 2 weeks, 2 weeks straight. But then we learned, okay, still not making money if you don't have to buy something, And so we actually didn't do it for many years and then brought it back as Temperature Tuesday, just doing it once a week for a month. And that way our stores can prepare, they can reset, they can recover. Again, it's all dependent on the temperature. So if we have a warm winter or warm January, you'd be surprised. They don't come for 25 cents.
Yeah, it always seems to be
10
degrees.
cents and lower, then they come.
Yeah, but if it's 20, that's just ridiculous.
That's ridiculous.
So
I'm not
20
I'm going to stand my ground.
Yeah, you're still eating for
I'll
like
go there on
$5.
Wednesday and pay
Yeah.
full
A whole
price.
meal
instead.
for like $5, but it's so funny. They're just waiting for that like 10 degrees or
It's
less.
above freezing. No, I'd rather not pay 30 cents for my Runza.
Yeah, they're checking the weather like 7 days in advance.
Yeah, right. So now you have to buy a fry and a drink, but you're
Still a good
eating
deal.
for like $5. Yeah.
Yeah, still a
Yeah.
lot cheaper than
Yes,
pretty
right.
much. Yeah.
Oh my
anywhere.
gosh, we had dime time where if you were like the 10th car, you got your whole order for 10 cents. That was my dad. And no, that might have been one of our franchisees actually. I mean, we had some crazy things we were trying to come up with. So yeah.
Well, okay, so I got one you're doing kind of right now, the breakfast.
Yes, the breakfast runs a sandwich.
which
Yeah.
I want to try. We should have somehow made it.
So yeah,
'Cause I'm not standing in that line. That's a mile long.
That's right. Yeah.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah. So we have had that recipe forever and ever. And one of I think Hastings, Nebraska, had served that sandwich for some time. You can go to different markets and get a few different things. For example, Hastings, Grand Island, Kearney. it might just be primarily Hastings now. They do a pig in the blanket with our Runza dough, maybe once a week on Wednesdays, that kind of thing. So you can go to Clarinda, Iowa, and you can get a breaded pork sandwich. I mean, so we do in different markets some different things. So far, the breakfast Runza sandwich, we've done that as just kind of a promotional, come to this location.
I say it worked.
And those have been fundraisers. So we haven't charged for them. So you can just come, get in line, and it's a, free will donation. And then we'll donate the money. But yeah, great PR. And
Have you seen this, Henry?
No.
Okay, so I know that they did like 56 in Holdridge.
Yes.
And they had to have police come
Yes.
because the traffic
For the
was so
traffic.
backed up.
Yeah.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Like blocking off the street, people waiting
All
to
the
turn
way
into the
down
drive-thru.
56 to Wesleyan. Yeah.
Well,
all the way to
56 moves so fast,
Oh,
so
yeah,
I'm
right.
sure it was super good.
Like, and I'm just like, what?
Yeah. Yeah,
For
it
a
was. It was
contest
drive-through
going on?
only, and it was a free will donation and for charity, and so we've done that in a few different markets
Got it.
as
So-
well. So,
But no plans to just start opening up for breakfast.
well, yeah, no, we have tried breakfast over and over in lots of different markets over the
Really?
years. Yeah, and because our people are there anyway, getting things made, making homemade onion rings, making runzas. I mean, that's one thing people don't quite understand is we make those at every location every day. I think some people think they're just shipped in from somewhere,
Yeah.
But
So what's the average amount per day? that make?
you'd be surprised for a Runza sandwich. It's less than it used to be just because your menu has grown and now you have more variety.
Yep.
And whereas when I was growing up and I was working in the stores, we didn't have salads. At one point, we didn't have chicken sandwiches. At one point, we didn't have kids' meal. I mean, so because of the variety and the growth in the menu, which, by the way, we still try to keep as simple as possible. Yeah, you'd be surprised. It's not that many. I mean, it's a lot. Yeah, well, if I told you, you'd say, "Oh my God!" But it's less because of that menu variety.
And that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes I'll get the cheeseburger.
They're good.
Oh yeah.
Chicken strips are good.
Yeah.
The chicken wraps are good.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Popcorn
Okay, I know.
chicken. Yeah.
And the Runza dip.
Yes, that's right. So we took that away for a while, and you would be surprised how many, and we've had it forever, and suddenly we're getting comments, "Oh wait, you had dip?" We're like, "Yeah, that's why we took it away. You weren't ordering it."
This is the problem.
Yeah. But there were some that absolutely loved it, and they wouldn't stop on social media, and so we finally brought it back, and it does
Power
great.
of social media.
Yeah,
That's great.
Yeah, so now it does great. Yeah.
Okay, so what is the plan for Runza in the next 5 to 10 years?
Well, my brother and sister and I are technically Gen 3. And, our growth is real slow and controlled. We do sit down with new people that are potential franchisees that want to expand. We have a whole interview process. We have a certain radius that we're willing to look at from Lincoln because, we want to be able to support them. We want every single one to be successful. But we have Gen 4 now that has started in our corporate office, my daughter and my sister's daughter. And so, we'd really like that to continue as a family business. A good portion of our managers own a good portion of their locations. That's one thing my dad, as a business owner, my dad was not greedy. He wanted everyone to be successful, and he wanted his team members to have a piece of it. He wanted them to work for themselves, and so that whole model continues. And so, growth is a big thing. Growth in other areas is something, real estate or, other things. We have, my parents have a total of 8 grandkids. So my brother and sister and I's children. And, we're just ready for them to say, hey, I'm an attorney and now I'm got you to use my service, or hey, I want to come back and what could I do? And so we're really determined to keep it as a family business. And you won't see us suddenly jump to 1,000 restaurants. That's just not, like I said, we want every single one to be successful. And we want all of our franchisees, all of our partners, all of our team members, to be successful and really be comfortable in a family business-oriented business.
Perfect.
Well, when you're not fast food here in Lincoln and surrounding areas,
Yeah.
what do you like to do? Recreational. Oh my gosh.
Recreationally.
Leave that in.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah. We're going to
Well,
leave that in.
So, as a family, we love to travel, and we love to travel together. So Donald Everett Sr. passed away in 2014 of complications from Alzheimer's, my dad. And so that's one thing. My dad was just generous, too, in the community. He wanted to dabble in a little bit of everything. And, whether it was sponsoring the midget football field and having a midget football team or, things like that. So, we continue with that. We're, really big partners with teammates and Alzheimer's Association, which is obviously my dad passed away from complications of Alzheimer's. We got involved in that when he passed away in 2014. So I'm on the board of the Nebraska Alzheimer's Association. And, they do walks across the state to raise awareness and things like that. And so, it's great. Runza's footprint is all across the state of Nebraska. So it's great that we can help spread that message and things like that. Feed the hunger, feed the need. Hunger in our own state is really important to us. We do a day of come to Runza, and a percentage of sales goes to each community to feed the need, things like that. So we want to continue to be charitable. We all volunteer. We all volunteer on different boards and different causes. That's really important to our family. But we love to travel. That is thanks to my dad. I mean, heading down the road again in that RV.
Yep.
So we all love to travel. We love to travel together. My mom is 81, and, she's my best friend. And so I do a lot with her, and she travels with us. And athletics, my dad was huge into athletics. He always took us to sporting events. His dad was inducted in Lincoln High Hall of Fame. I mean, he and his family were very athletic. And so athletics are really important to us. And then I personally have 4 grandbabies. And so I spend a lot of my time helping with them.
Good.
So that'd be Gen 5.
That would be Gen 5.
Oh boy.
And they're
Gen 5 is 6 and under right now. What
how
could
many
I
how
put
many-
them to work doing?
Yeah, onion
Yeah.
rings.
Onion ring sodas.
Yes, a little bit of this.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. That was
Yeah,
great.
sure.
Thanks, Don.
I'm having
You're
fun,
welcome.
so.
You're welcome.
All right, thanks everybody.
Yep.